Welcome back to the Nuance Diaries. I have to have a human moment for a minute because it's my third attempt to start. I'm usually a good one and done person, but I sometimes forget that I'm just talking to you, and I get very presentational, and I'm like da 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 da, and I'm like, Alexa, you sound weird. So here's to trying to sound like a normal person and read it. So today we're talking about the name change of Wild Cozy Free to the Nuance Diaries, inspired by the least problematic woman in the world, Dylan Mulvaney, who did not change her name when she transitioned, but inspired me to change mine. The newsletter, that is. I'm still Alexa. So Dylan briefly discusses Nuance, the end of her iconic one-woman show, The Least Problematic Woman in the World, which I encourage you to see so much. Something about hearing that word in the context you presented it in felt like this light bulb moment. And again, no spoilers. I really want you to go see if you're in New York. And if you're not in New York, then I'll tell you about it later. So I heard nuance, and I was like, oh, right, nuance. This very nuanced world we're living in. And I really can't tell you how I jumped from that thought to, I should change the name of my newsletter. I hadn't even been thinking about changing it until I heard Dylan Mulvaney say, nuance. It's like I never thought about living in San Diego until I visited. Ironically, where Dylan once lived too. But like so many things in my life, the rebrand and rapid recent growth of this newsletter happened slowly and then all at once. So back in June of this year, I sat down to write down what I called the Wild Cozy Free 2025 State of the Union, to reflect on my 2 years here at Substack and what Wild Cozy Free means to me now. I first claimed my URL on May 8th, 2023, and then I published my welcome post 9 days later on May 17th. The name Wild Cozy Free came to me late one night. I had recently found out that a potential book project wasn't going to happen the way I thought it was, and I had this whole collection of nonfiction essays and nowhere to put them as a playwright who formerly only published fictional dramas. I remembered how Glennon Doyle's writing career started with her blog, The Momastery. And when she talked about it on her podcast, she says/writes, I tell my shiny, happy, representative self to be quiet, and I just allow my wild, original, honest, truth self forward. I started a blog, and it turned out lots of people needed to hear the truth, but they needed air. Over time, as I wrote to you each morning, you became my meeting, my friends, the community I ended up doing life with. In those early days, a whole lot has changed for me. Those early writings have turned into 3 books, the last of which was Untamed. I watched my home this past year in awe, as Untamed became one of the biggest books of 2020 and 2021. And because of that, things have gotten bigger and wider and fancier. And the bigger and wider and fancier it all gets, the more I miss those early days. So here we are, back to the beginning, just you and me in the early morning, and our coffee and the truth. Full circle makes me very happy. And she's describing her podcast, We Can Do Hard Things, which has now gotten bigger, wider, and fancier in the years since then, but also still has that intimate, cozy coffee quality, which is amazing. So looking back at my first Substack post, it's pretty easy to see how my own words echoed Glennon's. And I wrote, the day I started toying with the idea of writing a personal blog, words started pouring out of me faster than ever before. It was like my mind got the message that I could finally say whatever I wanted to, without worrying about the correct format. I'm good at brainstorming and free writing, but all my writing typically falls into one category: play, novel, essay, song, maybe poem. The only works I've ever widely shared are fully crafted essays and plays. Not really the essays, I don't know what I meant there. I hope to share the novels one day as I finish them, and the song lyrics and poems are usually just for me or close friends, the unfiltered stuff. The most unfiltered stuff is tucked away in my notes app, the writing that I know probably won't ever make it into a future play, novel, essay, song, or poem. The writing that I won't assign to a character or fit into a dramatic arc. The thoughts I jot down when I'm waiting for the train, the things that pop into my head when I'm listening to a podcast or a moody playlist or on one of my hot girl walks. The anxiety is keeping me up at night when all I want to do is sleep. This blog will be a home for those thoughts. And 2 years later, this blog is still a home for those thoughts. Reading the Substack is very much like taking a peek inside my notes app, because my notes app is where most of these essays start. The iPhone notes app is kind of my virtual diary like the Nuance diaries. Of course, when I started this blog, I did have to wrestle with my inner critic's protests. Who would want to listen to me? Who would want to listen to us? And so back to that original essay I wrote. I'm well aware that the concept of women unmasking their real authentic selves is an original, even though it's still relatively quite new. That's a good thing, a really good thing, that so many of us are finally taking up space and showing up as our full selves. So instead of shutting myself down and convincing myself that I have nothing new to contribute to the conversation, I'm going to defy my inner critic and take up some space of my own. I'm going to slowly strip myself of shame. I'm going to let my wild, cozy, free self roam, say what she wants to say, and see where that takes us. I hope you'll join me and bring your wild, cozy, free self along for the ride. I am not here to teach you anything new about yourself, or the world for that matter. I am just here to share my thoughts that I usually keep to myself about myself and the world around me. Perfect offering of validation and truth. Reading it back, that description still rings true. This newsletter is still the place I share the thoughts I usually keep to myself about myself and the world around me. While writing the Wild, Cozy, Free 2025 State of the Union a few months ago, I came up with this. Wild, Cozy, Free is how it feels to show up as my real, authentic, unfiltered self with my mess on full display. It's like being in the wilds, uncharted territory. No one has gone where I'm going. No one's going to experience life the way I do. I've searched for blueprints for so long on how to live. I've looked for the right answers and wisdom, but the only right wisdom is mine. So here I am, making my way with no map, trekking through the wilds, bushwhacking, if you will. There is something cozy about coming home to who I am and nesting there. When I feel really connected to myself, I often take this breath of release, like, oh, here I am. Like when you're snuggling up on a cozy sofa. I have this image in my head of a family learning to take care of a newborn. And I imagine a lot of new parents might call those first few months both wild and cozy. One minute you're like, wow, how do I keep this tiny human alive? I can't do this. And the next minute you're looking at this perfect soft angel swallowed up in your chest with the perfect baby smell. You're so content and calm in the chaos. I don't have kids yet, but I really look forward to being a mom one day. And that being said, I know that I have no idea what the reality of raising a child is. And the last thing I want to do is oversimplify the complexity of being a new parent. So I'm not trying to do that. Pouring my heart out across the page and letting people get to know the real me and I peel back all these layers is really freeing. Scary, but freeing. It's the feeling of being seen and accepted without pretenses or performance or expectation. I am free to be myself and evolve. Wild Cozy Free is a feeling, an identity, a state of mind, and something I'm in constant pursuit of. It's like my personal brand of authenticity. So looking back at that, what I wrote in June, it's very possible that I was subconsciously starting to realize that Wild Cozy Free is more of a vibe than a newsletter name. It was a great newsletter name for the last 2 years, but this blog is no longer about me and like just how I move through the world. It's about how I see the world and experience the world too, which is, sounds similar, but a little nuanced. Enter the Nuance Diaries. Like I said, something just clicked when Dylan Mulvaney said that word, nuance, in one of the final moments of her gorgeous, singular Whirlwind Woman show, which I highly implore you to catch this weekend before it closes on Sunday if you're here in New York. And if you go this weekend, you might see a familiar face in the audience. My mind just couldn't let go of that word, nuance, and what it means to have nuance and be nuanced. At first, the phrase, the nuance report, popped into my head, but the word report felt a little too newscaster for me personally. The word diary is what followed. Maybe I was consciously thinking about the diary entries that Dylan shares in her memoir, Paper Doll, which she signed for me. Or maybe I was thinking about Sex and the City and spin-off, The Carrie Diaries. Honestly, if I tried to trace back the origin of every idea and detail in my brain, we'd be here until 2030, minimum. I ran the idea by a close friend the day after seeing The Least Problematic Woman in the World. The Least Problematic Woman in the World. I talk so fast, I'm sorry. And she loved it. She said that it felt like a great name for a newsletter where I share my hot takes on the world. And I myself think that my takes are lukewarm at best, but who am I to correct my bestie when she calls me and my takes hot? Like, I'll take it. I put together the new logo / word mark and changed my URL that night, just 24 hours after seeing Dylan's show, and here we are. And the logo is shared in the blog. You might be thinking, what is the actual definition of nuance, Alexa? According to the Learning and Information Resource Center, the nuance is a noun, and it means a subtle or slight difference in meaning, expression, sound, or feeling. It's the kind of detail that adds depth and complexity, whether in language, art, or human behavior. Okay, but what does that actually mean? From study.com, we have something that is nuanced, has many different shades of meaning, in the same way that a photo might have many different shades of gray. Closer. But what does it really mean? And then this is from a WordPress called Think Clearly, Write Clearly, and it says it's very simple. When something is not black and white, it's nuance, i.e. shaded. That hits on the head for me. I think of nuance as the gray area, the both and of it all. So by that definition, Wild Cozy Free was nuance all along. The very description of something being both wild and cozy feels pretty nuanced to me. Because wild can be cozy and cozy can be wild. I started writing here on Substack under Wild Cozy Free to peel back the layers of myself and the world around me. And now inside the Nuanced Diaries, I will continue to do just that. It kind of feels like when I set out on this journey, I delivered a mandate to myself to show up and explore who I really am on the page. And now with the rebrand of Wild Cozy Free to the Nuanced Diaries, I am continuing and expanding that mandate. I'm still writing about me, but also about how I see things and walk through the world and what's going on. As for my inner critic, who thought no one wanted to hear what I had to say, I've become a frequent flyer on the rising Substack bestseller lists with 99 other writers. The Substack team has personally invited me to an intimate in-person gathering for bestsellers. But more than that, you reading these words. You welcome my words into your home to be your coffee read in the mornings. You read the Nuanced Diaries in Nigeria and Australia and the UK and India and the Philippines and more. You share your favorite pieces with your friends and say kind things about me on the internet. You care what I have to say. You let me take up space in your hearts and minds with my words. I could not be more grateful, whether you've been here since day one with Donna MacArthur, or if you're a new friend like Elle. I also have to give a very special shout out to all of the Swifties who are here thanks to my most read piece, Taylor Swift Isn't Going to Save the World, which now has 1,000+ views and brought in 30+ new subscribers in like 2 weeks. So, as I wrap up this week's Nuance Diary entry, I want to know, what does the word nuance mean to you? And also, what are you tucking away in your notes app these days? Inside of mine, I recently wrote some pieces called Salt Air, How to Love Your Anxious, Scary Inner Gremlin, and Please Stay, Please Stay, Please Stay, which are all linked here. Thank you so much for being here. Much more to come. And there's also a picture of me and Dylan at the end of this where I'm trying to play it cool. And I just have to say once again that Dylan Mulvaney is even kind of ever imagine if you know her online. I've been following her since the OG days of girlhood on TikTok, and I just can attest that she is the least problematic woman in the world and a goddamn national treasure. A brilliant writer and performer and just one of the sharpest, wittiest, funniest people ever. singular talent, extraordinary person, and I just want nothing but good things for her and all the dolls. So come see her solo show, which is linked all over the place here, and read her book and support her in all the ways. Okay, thanks for listening. Talk to you later. Bye!